Madison. She made varsity. Seventh grade.
Gotta go watch the game.
Oh, no, I want to watch the game. Sure. It is.
Good afternoon. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to the school board meeting this Tuesday, September the 15th. If you wish to speak during the hearing of citizens, please pick up a card at the back of the chamber, print your name and topic clearly, and return it to our board assistant, Ms. Kathy Tompkins. At the appropriate time, I will call you to speak. Please stand and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Steve Cantis, would you like to come up and start today's presentations?
So good afternoon, everybody. It says the mic is on. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, great. So I'm really excited to be here this evening. It's nice for us to get back to doing some presentations and show you what's going on in our schools, some of the exciting things that are going on in our schools. So I'm excited to be here this afternoon to talk about our National Arts and Education Week. It's something we celebrate in Sarasota County pretty robustly, and how Sarasota is a leader in the field of arts education. Also, we're thrilled to update you on two great reasons to celebrate Northport High School because of their arts programs today, so we'll save that surprise for a little bit later. And so I'm just going to jump right into the program here to kick us off today. We have Angela Hartvixen. We all know her. She's our Fine Arts Program Specialist. Brian Hirsch, the district's Program Director for Any Given Child Sarasota. And then I'll be right back with you in a few minutes.
Okay.
Good afternoon,
Good
Mrs.
afternoon,
Ducker,
Angela.
school board members, Dr. Asplin, Mr. Hardy. This week, September 13th through the 19th, is a National Arts and Education Week. This national celebration, recognizing the transformative power of the arts and education, was passed by Congress in 2010 through House Resolution 275. Through coordination from Americans for the Arts, National Arts and Education Week is a time to bring attention to the power of the arts to community and educational leaders across the country, and to support equitable access to the arts for all students. According to Americans for the Arts, with their strong emphasis on team building and self-reflection, are supremely suited to reignite students' interest in learning through collaboration, while simultaneously fostering creativity, critical thinking, and communication. How amazing that in our Sarasota County schools, 100% of our students have access to arts education. All of our schools have certified arts educators. Furthermore, our community is committed to supporting and delivering experiential learning of the arts with more than 55 provider partners via school district managed edexploresrq.com, which enables our teachers to partner with these amazing providers and often grant funded opportunities for students to deepen their learning. Brian?
Thank you, Angela. Continuing, Sarasota County Schools has been a national partner with the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts since 1997, and was selected as the 6th Any Given Child community in the entire country in 2011 to implement a community-wide collective impact initiative to ensure access and equity in arts education, which has boosted in our district arts instruction and arts integrated teaching and learning. And even during this pandemic, arts instruction has never ceased. And as we would expect from our innovative teachers, creative problem solving has ensued. And in fact, the same type of critical thinking and collaboration arts instruction brings to students, our teachers are walking the walk to deliver impactful arts education. Our district and community's commitment to provide meaningful and varied educational experiences remains unwavering. The restorative and unifying power of the arts has never been so evident as it is now, while advancing inclusion, diversity, equity, and access for all our students. Thank you to all of you for supporting the essential nature of high-quality arts for all of our students as part of a well-rounded education. And to spotlight our arts community's commitment to our students and arts programs, we welcome Jim Shirley, the Executive Director of the Arts and Culture Alliance of Sarasota County.
Thank you, Brian. Well, it's my pleasure to be here today and to speak with you. I haven't seen many of you in a long time, and it's way past due. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see each other in many of our cultural arts venues for quite some time to come. But that price will be paid, and it'll be paid well. But the one thing we will never give up on, for over 30 years, all of the arts and cultural organizations in this community, which is one of the most robust arts and cultural communities in the country, is 100% in support of the school system, of ensuring that the arts are available to all of our children all of the time, and to be there as your advocate and your supporter to help you with programs that you need to ensure that all of our children have access to the arts in their educational process. We want to thank you for your continued support of that, and we want you to be assured. Actually, it's interesting, in Sarasota County, we have over 7,500 people employed full-time in our nonprofit arts and cultural organizations, making it one of the largest employers in the county. So a lot of the kids that come into our school system are families of people who work in the arts. And we're there to support you. We want to tell you how much we truly appreciate you continuing to support the arts in our children's classrooms, and thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. We want to, first of all, say we are so excited and proud in Sarasota County to partner with our community in arts education. There's probably no other school district in the state of Florida, and we have to be one of the top in the country with our strong partnerships with the community. So today, as I said earlier, we're here to celebrate Northport High School for two accomplishments that fit perfectly with National Arts in Education Week. This past spring, Northport High School became an official visual and performing arts magnet in Sarasota County. They have become our South County magnet, Booker High School being our North County magnet, and as a school of choice for talented area art students. Number two, we're also here to recognize them for a statewide honor from the Florida Alliance for Arts Education, who's recognizing them as a Florida Arts Model School. We are so proud of Northport High on both fronts. Joining us today is the Executive Director of the Florida Alliance for Arts Education, Leland Thoreau, and who herself is a Sarasota County school graduate and a former music teacher in Sarasota County. I'm going to have Leland come up and talk a little bit about this award.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Sarasota County School Board. My name is Leland Terrio, and I'm the Executive Director for the Florida Alliance for Arts Education. And I am here to bestow to our Northport people the very distinct award of Florida Arts Model School. The Florida Department of Education supports a complete and comprehensive education that includes dance, music, theater, and visual arts for all Florida students. To help achieve this goal, the Florida Department of Education seeks to identify model arts education programs in schools throughout Florida. The Florida Arts Model Schools program recognizes schools that offer exemplary programs in schools in any of the 4 art disciplines. Schools can apply for FAMS designations in 1 or more arts disciplines, and in addition, the designation of Florida Arts Achieve Schools is given to secondary schools receiving a FAMS designation in all 4 areas. I am happy to congratulate the Fine and Performing Arts Department at Northport High School with the highest honors of an Arts Achieve designation. for the 3-year period, 2020 till 2023. I'd like for them to come up and receive their award. And I'm to understand, there they are, the rest of the guys. Okay, so I have you all listed because I know you all did this. So in order to do this FAMS application, it takes about 4 months. There are 6 critical success factors that they have to meet. They have to send in 3 different sets of videos from each of their different departments. It is an amazing work just to complete the application. In fact, this year, due to COVID, we're not even having the application process because nobody could meet the criteria with what's happening right now. So I want to congratulate Principal Brandon Johnson, who couldn't be here with us today, Assistant Principal Julie King, thank you so much for coming, our coordinator, the Fine and Performing Arts Department Chair, Dr. Tiffany Jennings, and in her visual, thank you, oh, and yes, I see you. And in her visual art department also, Marilyn Caruso, Chloe Dubois, and Fang Nguyen. In the music department, David Summer, Dr. Owen Bradley, and Lorianne Keeney Alegria. In the theater department, Ryan Oliver and Dina Henderson. And in the dance department, Heather Nelson and Michelle Slay. Thanks for the kick. Congratulations. I'm so proud that this is a Sarasota school. Tiffany and Julie, if you'll come forward.
Okay.
This is only the people who get the Arts Achieves designation
That's
will receive this plaque.
Beautiful. It's
Yes.
beautiful too.
Yes,
All right,
so
let me
this
see
is
it.
yours.
Do you want me to hold this or you want me to just hold it?
Thank you. And then if I could have all of our artsy people come up, and you're going to have to help with this extremely large banner.
Okay.
Oh, you want to hold one in?
Mr. Hardy just want to stand where you're at. Sure.
This is so that they can put it in the front of their school and show off to everybody that comes to visit.
We'll show you as soon as we get
Okay.
And some of you can stand just behind.
Smiley, smiley.
That'll get everybody in.
You're too close, Steve.
Are we missing anybody?
Move over.
Good.
Guys are zoomers?
Yep.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Pretty well. 1, 2, 3.
I guess I don't have to smile.
Turn your eyes. Sorry.
Oh, that's great. Good job.
Your eyes.
Thank you. And I'm glad that we are able to have some presentations back at our board meetings. It was pretty lonely without you all coming in and showing us the great stuff that goes on in our community. Mrs. Goodwin?
Well, I want to thank all of those of you who are here in this room or on Zoom. Congratulations to Northport High School. We love this for you. You know, the arts are so important because I always say to people, you know, the arts are what make your heart sing. And of all the academics that we are involved with, you know, the connection that we all have in our heart is very often through the arts. And of course, the arts make us better mathematicians, make us better students, make us a better, well-rounded individual. But in this community, we are so blessed to have so many wonderful arts organizations, the Arts Alliance that Jim discussed earlier, and they're all under great duress right now because they can't perform in the normal way. So a lot of our arts organizations, just like hospitality in many of our parts of our community, are under great stress. So I would encourage all of you to, at this most opportune moment, to, you know, help them out, make a donation, go and see a performance when you can. You know, many of the orchestras have postponed everything until the 21-22 season. And I know we've had problems at producing plays and doing things this year in our schools, but I would just say, you know, the arts are the most wonderful part of our community. Leland is a great testament to the arts, a great friend to the schools, of course, having lived here all of her life and being involved as a teacher, a music teacher, having a great voice. We'll have to get her to sing for us sometimes when we're not masked and not doing breath. But I just want to thank you for being here today and for bringing this to us. What a wonderful way to kick off the year. What a wonderful accomplishment. And my congratulations, Dr. Jennings, and the rest of you from Northport High School.
Superintendent's report. Dr. Aspin.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, board members. And good afternoon to everyone here today. It's good to see all of you. Congratulations, Northport. That's fantastic. Wonderful. I've had a few items on here that I just wanted to discuss today or tell you about today. First of all, you know, the first 2 weeks of school, we started and under the conditions that we are with the pandemic, I think things went very, very well. I know it's been challenging for our teachers. They love our kids. They care for our kids so much, and they are used to teaching at a certain level of rigor. And I think the concurrent teaching method has made that very difficult for them, and they're trying very, very hard to give their students what they know their students deserve. And I just want them to know that we all appreciate everything that the teachers are doing and the hard work that they're putting in on a daily basis. I know there's been, you know, different situations, as in technology, attendance assessment situations, all these different pieces that we've been working through and working with our teachers at our schools. We're all working together to just solve these problems. I know our students are very, very happy to be back. When I visit schools, I can't see their smiles on their faces, but I can sure see it in their eyes that they're very, very happy to be back, and I know our teachers are happy to see them as well. Parents, I want to thank you for all that you've been doing, especially with your students who are remote, and making sure that they're in front of the computer on time and that they're engaged. I appreciate that, and if you would continue to do that, that'll help our teachers out tremendously. Just to touch base on the COVID-19 piece, you know that we have the new dashboard. It's out on the webpage. If you haven't seen it, if you want to, you know, just go to the front, to the webpage. It's right on the front there, and it talks about the number of cases that we have. And right now we have 9 positive cases, which equates to 2 adults and 7 students. And then we have 71 who are quarantined, because as we find positive cases, as you know, then we have to contact trace and see who has been around those students to quarantine them properly. So that's where we are, and that information, like I said, is on the webpage every day if you'd like to see it. I do want to also thank our Department of Health and the Gulf Coast Community Foundation for helping us open 3 rapid results testing facilities, one being in the north end at the Department of Health, the one in Mid-County, which is around the Osprey area at the Materials Warehouse, and the third one's the bus depot in South County. And what this does is allows for our teachers or students who have COVID symptoms to be able to be tested, and in 24 to 48 hours be able to find out those results so that we can get them back in the school. So I want to thank the Gulf Coast Community Foundation and Department of Health for helping us with that. Really do appreciate it. Some other news. All students, we have a waiver that all students on campuses will eat breakfast and lunch for free regardless of status. That also remains remote. So all students. The only extra cost would be the a la carte items. This waiver allows us to feed any child 18 years or younger from now until December the 31st. We're going to start this on Monday, September 21st. And as I said, all remote students can eat for for free as well. And any child in our area, 18 years or younger, can eat. This includes preschool age, virtual students, homeschool students, private school students, etc. And there'll be more information coming out shortly from Mrs. Dan. So that was very nice. It's also September of each year is designated as American Founders Month. And for the last week of classes in September, we'll recognize and celebrate Freedom Week. We'll have appropriate instruction in each social studies class to include an in-depth study of the intent, meaning, and importance of the Declaration of Independence. So again, September is American Founders Month. And we also have, September 15th through October 15th is Hispanic Heritage Month, and we'll celebrate that. Students are invited, the state of Florida has invited all students to participate in the 2020 Hispanic Heritage Month Art and Essay Contest with the theme of celebrating untold stories and contributions of Hispanic Americans in Florida. And the deadline for that is September 25th. So we're looking forward to see what the students have there as we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. And we also would like to congratulate Booker Middle School. They've been selected as CFES Brilliant Pathways School of Distinction based on its performance during the 1920 school year. And this is for practices of mentoring, essential skills, and pathways to college and career. So congratulations to Booker Middle. And then also congratulations to Dr. James Minor, who is at Riverview High School. He was voted as president-elect for the Florida Association of IB World Schools for 2021 school year and will serve as president during the 21-22 school year. And I know we are very proud that he is going to represent Sarasota in his position as president, state president for the IB organization. So congratulations to Dr. Minor. Also, I know a lot of folks have been asking about playgrounds and when will playgrounds open. We have sprayed them with OmniShield, and playgrounds will open on Wednesday. Wednesday's the day. Yes, I know. So, and also, Human Resources is having a job fair. Our HR department is hosting a job fair for classified positions and substitutes in North and South County. And that'll be on Thursday and Friday, the 24th and the 25th. And you can look at the webpage for more information there. And then the last item that I wanted to bring up is an item that I heard about yesterday, actually. It has to do with brain pop, and I just want to clear up any information that I can on that, obviously. But yesterday it was brought to my attention that there was sensitive material that is on brain pop. And whether you know or not, brain pop is a supplemental resource that we purchase in our district. We've had it since 2008. Many districts in the state of Florida have it. Many districts across the country have it. And as I said, it is a supplemental resource. It's fantastic in math, science, social studies, and English. Very good material. And last night, what I heard was there was some sensitive material that was in their social studies area, which would be in the current events section. And, as you know, there's always current events coming up in school. Students bring current events in, and they're everywhere. So in looking at that, some of that sensitive material, what they have is videos that help the students to understand certain things. So that particular video, or a couple of the videos, even says right at the front there, right before you start the video, it says sensitive material, you need an adult to be with you as you watch this, and so on and so forth. And so what I decided to do was, in those particular cases where we have that sensitive material and it pops up and it's something like that, to restrict that access for students so they just can't go on there without the adult access, because it even says you need to have adult access. But also, I want to make sure that we don't censor it and delete it either, because we also have families that do want to watch that particular material and understand that particular material. So by restricting the access, people will have to contact us in the curriculum department to explain, what the need is before we go ahead and release that access. And in the meantime, our curriculum department will be looking at all of our resources that we have, our supplemental resources, because we have other vendor-type supplemental resources that we purchase in all of our areas, in our subject areas, that we need to be aware of, and make sure that if there is anything sensitive out there, parents need to know, teachers need to know, and we need to do the right thing as adults. Again, it doesn't mean censor it and take it away, but it might mean restrict it, and that's what we really need to do. This in no way means that it has to do with our overall curriculum. These are supplementary materials, and you can sort of look at that as the newspaper. I know a lot of times students will bring the newspaper in and for different articles that they see in the newspaper that they want to bring in and talk about with teachers and students and have debates and so on and so forth. But this type of material that students can look at and see without adults there, unless you restrict it, I think that's important. And then also with teachers, just making sure that it aligns with whatever it is, make sure that it aligns with our curriculum and what we're trying to do. And if it doesn't, then we need to have that discussion and find out why we're going to use that. So anyway, so I just want to make sure that everyone understood that until last night, we didn't know it was on there, and everybody else in the world, because I called a couple other districts who I know the folks there, and they said, "What are you talking about?" And they go on and look at it. So it's not like anybody's trying to do anything behind the curtain or anything like that. We're just, as you tell us what you see, I really appreciate that, because that helps us look into different areas and do what we need to do with our curriculum and anything else. So I appreciate your eyes and ears. I appreciate the information. So thank you very much for that, and hopefully that clears up any misconceptions on brain pop. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is our hearing of citizens. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. When the timer, which is over here, flashes yellow, 1 minute remains, and you need to summarize. To the audience, please note that respect for divergent viewpoints and civility will be shown at every board meeting. Whether you agree or disagree with the speaker, you should listen politely and respectfully without making any sounds of approval or disapproval, including clapping. You can wave your hands. Please note, the board will not be responding to your comments. District staff is here taking notes. This is all from Statute 1001.372, paren 3. Anyone causing a disturbance will first be given a warning, and if the conduct does not stop, you will be removed from the chambers. Sorry. First on the list is Joni McLendon.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. And also, thank you, Dr. Asplin, because that was one thing that was my concern, was the LBGT and the BLM on the brain pop. So thank you. I was a former EBD special education teacher in Georgia in a lockdown school for many years. So I dealt with a lot of kids with emotional problems. I was a former elementary school guidance counselor in private practice, and then I had substituted for Sarasota County for many years. And so I'm going to scratch that part while I was going to talk to you about the brain pop. So thank you for doing that. I really think it's so important to protect the innocence of our children and grandchildren. About 7 or 8 years ago, I was subbing in an elementary school in Sarasota County, and I had a gifted class, and it was going great, and it was wonderful. And then they let the kids go for about an hour, hour and a half of sex education. Every little girl came back and cried. Every boy came back and was speaking vulgarities. I think we need to look at these things and see if someone that is 9 is ready for sex education. I've counseled many young people when I was in private practice that have identity issues and were suicidal. So I think we need to be very, very careful about ever introducing LGBTQ to young minds. I think it causes confusion. My adult children they went to Christian school in elementary school, and then from middle school and high school, they went to Sarasota County schools. They loved God and they loved country. Another issue I have is that when they were in middle school and high school, they were taught by some liberal teachers that America is a really bad place and our founding fathers are bad. So I'm thankful you're having the Founders Week. And so my children are, even though we're strong Christians and believe in America, my children are socialistic. When I was in Georgia as a counselor, there was a program that came up that was called Free the Horses. It was basically hypnosis. So I went to my principal and I said, I'm not going to hypnotize kids. So I organized about 6 or 7 other counselors, and we went to the House of Representatives in the state of Georgia, and that whole program was taken out of every single school. And so I appreciate that you're making some steps, but please, please listen to parents and grandparents. I did the county called me several years ago, and I did a behavioral specialist job because the behavioral specialist's son had cancer. There were so many angry kids I had to deal with, so many disturbed kids. And I look at, I think about even putting something like BLM in. I know you've tabled that for now. I had heard that one time it was going to be 6 weeks in the middle school. And thank you. California, Minnesota, Kenosha, what is going on is what I'm asking you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next is Benjamin Casey or Colby. Sorry, you.
All right. Hello, my name is Benjamin Casey. I'm an alumni of Pineview School, class of 2019, and I'm representing a younger generation that, for the most part, is not here, but I think we should be heard too. So, much can be said about what's brought us here today, and much will be said, but I'll keep my speech short. And to address both the crowd and the board, I'm seeing a lot of parallels today, and some drawn to mind are pictures of similarly disgruntled parents kicking and screaming at children trying to learn at desegregated schools. I bet that they thought they were doing what's best for their kids too. They thought they knew that what was right and what was best, but just as millions of people have before and have been proven wrong. I ask you to have humility in your thoughts and actions and recognize that you're not always right. None of us are. We're a flawed people as a whole and individually. We may have progressed past angry mobs, but here we are still fighting over equality 50 years later, just in a different format. We still have flaws, as we always will, but the only way to attempt to fix these flaws is education. Racism, discrimination, and prejudice are learned behaviors. They are not innate. They are taught and passed down through people's actions and words. But I'm asking the board to vote in favor of this proposal to instead promote other learned behaviors, such as love and understanding and acceptance. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Darian Nigro.
Hello, my name is Darian Nigro. I graduated from high school in Sarasota County in this district in 2019, and I want to talk with you guys about the same topic that Ben just discussed, and it's because I think there's a major problem, and I'm not going to try to discuss the topics of race and culture and diversity. I think they're all very important because there's a simple fact, and that is that racism is a major problem in schools with students. Now, I'm not making a comment on teachers, but I don't think they understand how to deal with it. As a member of Pineview School for the entirety of my elementary school career, middle school, and high school, racism has existed as an issue from middle school onward. And it's not just insensitivity, it's not just implicit bias. There's consistent use from 6th grade through senior year of many different groups of people using racial slurs, whether that's the N-word in reference to people of color, or a word that I won't say beginning with S in reference to Hispanic people, or we don't even have to talk about race. We can talk about religion with those of the Jewish faith being discriminated against by students. And not once in any of these instances did I see a teacher or a faculty member stand up and do something. And to quote Barry Dubin of the Sarasota Teachers Association, he said that, quote unquote, calling out insensitivity in the classroom is, quote unquote, not the effective way to change behavior. And I understand where he's coming from. I do. Calling people out is confrontational, and it can offend them, and it can cause more conflict. But I pose the question, how are you going to improve someone's behavior if you're not willing to confront them in the first place? We can train people, we can train educators to train students to become more accepting and understanding of differences between each other. And even if there are not racist beliefs or feelings that are being reflected in these students' actions, I think it is a present issue that you cannot deny as a student. As someone who's not of one of these groups, I can't imagine how it would feel to be present for that. That's pretty much all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much. James Kim?
Good evening. Can you hear me? All right. Thank you so much for your time. My name is James Kim. I graduated from Pineview School in the class of 2019, and I'm currently a sophomore at Yale University. I am here in support of item 13. Specifically, I wanted to talk about the implicit bias training, and I just want to give my account of my experience with racism within the Sarasota County School District. I spent 2 years at Sarasota Middle School and 5 years at Pineview School. In that time, I was called gook, chink, zipperhead, and many other racial slurs that have history associated with lynching of Asian Americans. I have had many of my facial features mocked and criticized and been humiliated by other people simply because I am not white. And this is coming from the experience of an Asian American, a group that is often called the model minority in America. And if this is how we treat our models, how does it feel to be experiencing the same thing from other racial groups that are even more criminalized and discriminated against than Asian Americans? I am not coming here today to talk about this to simply ask for pity, but to demonstrate the fact that there is racism within our school district. And might be some parents who come here who have lived vicariously in the school district through their children, but I'm saying as someone who has spent the last 7 of my last 8 years 7 hours a day within these schools, that I can say with a higher degree of certainty that racism is a big problem within our school district right now. And I'm asking that something be done about it, which is why I'm coming up here in support of the implicit bias training. I don't think it's gonna be a panacea. I think racism will still exist because that's just a part of human nature. We have these biases that are often hard to accept. I know I have biases too, and it's something that we should all work towards. But I think it's the first step in the right direction. To do nothing today is to say that the status quo is okay. To say that it's okay for 11-year-olds to go home to their mothers crying because half the bus made fox eyes at them and called them chink. It's accepting that status quo. I'm just asking that when you go about this discussion today, to not just think about this policy in terms of abstraction of logical ideas, but to ground your thinking in the actual reality of what it will mean for the children of today's school district. Thank you. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. Nabil Sharif.
Good afternoon. My name is Nabil Sharif, and I graduated from high school in 2019. And as other SRQ alumni have kind of said my thoughts, I'd just like to bring up a few more points from some perspective as a minority. This notion that diversity training is indoctrination and something that needs to be left up to parents to teach feels like an insult to the mission that the school should have. I can tell you as a Pakistani Indian, Muslim American, that a collective regard and positive relations for the fellow different-looking student is far from perfect. In the 10 years that I was a student, I've had more than enough experiences regarding my race that I'd like to relive. Name-calling, racial insults, and many other forms of bullying are what cloud my mind when I try to think about my formative years in school. I can remember being called a sand N-word, a curry-smelling monster, that my skin is akin to feces, that I must be related to Osama bin Laden, or that maybe I wasn't in school on 9/11 because I was, quote, celebrating. I could go on longer than you might think, and these experiences still haunt me, but it far outweighs anything I've experienced in my time post-graduation, and that should say something. I'm not positing that everyone's racist or even that those who engaged in that behavior are explicitly racist or bad people, because that's not what's at hand. I can guarantee you that if there had been some training in place, I'm sure that I and other minorities would have a vastly different experience. More needs to be done. The new superintendent, all due respect, pulled Dr. Cherokee Hawley's contract because he caved into a vocal minority who claimed Hawley was a racist, BLM training indoctrinator, quote. This was the wrong thing to do. Today you vote on item 13 of the agenda, a new contract. This new contract is not a bad thing for schools, but pales in comparison to what the board could have had with Hawley. If Dr. Hawley was the first step, this is only the first sentence. I restate that more needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen Brooks.
Good afternoon. So, I just want to start by saying I don't have very good eyes, so I have to squint. Mr. Aspen? You mentioned that free lunch, kids, free lunch, breakfasts, all of that. My daughter yesterday came home. Now, we send breakfast and lunch and all that, but she came home and she said, I wanted to get a water. And they told her that she didn't have enough money, embarrassed her in front of her whole class. And that was asinine to me. I just need you to know that. So I was so irritated because she's 7. So, and she's very, very sensitive. So she came home and she was so up in arms. So, they told her, you don't have enough money. That's not okay. All right, let's begin. Remember when you were in school and you would get permission slips so that you could join your class and watch in a movie? I do. In my case, that was Flubber for science or like Charlotte's Web. Well, today in our society, you guys literally are not sending home parent consent forms for things like that, like Charlotte's Web and Flubber, which were G-rated movies back in the day, right? But instead, you are teaching my children through an app that none of you apparently until the other day, until our parents had let you know, have even been doing research on the own app that you provide for the county, which is absolutely crazy to me, that a parent had to make you aware of the stuff that you guys give our kids. And they're now learning about gay pride, BLM, rioting, also known as peaceful protesting, addiction, obesity, eating disorders, feminism, and then you allow our child and children to watch videos from a doctor that not every family trusts. I'm sorry, we don't. Not every family trusts Dr. Fauci. And then at the end of the video, it pushes people and implores them to tell our small children to come home and ask for a vaccine in my home that they will never receive. All of these things that I listed all fall into a category where parents are responsible for teaching their children. Okay? This is very important. In some homes, the approach to sexual orientation, it may not have been introduced yet. You see, this poses a problem because not all parents tell their children in 4th grade what LGBTQ is all about, and that is okay. That doesn't make it wrong. It just means that we haven't talked to our children about that yet. But that's for us to do, not for you to input into our children. I don't want my child coming home at 7 years old and asking me what trans actually means. I'm not there yet. We're not. I'm sorry. I feel like you guys are sexualizing our children. That's crazy, right? To think about it. I'm sorry. You see, some of us still believe in the nuclear family. We don't judge those that don't, but we like to have the right as they live to.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian McNamara. Would you please curtail your clapping, or I will dismiss you from the meeting.
Good afternoon, everybody.
It's Brian. Byron
McNamara. Yeah. I'm a father, husband, small business owner, disabled veteran, and friend to everybody here. To the young gentleman in the back that got up here and said something, it's not about who you are, and I apologize that you've had to suffer through that in your life and that you had to deal with that, because that's uncalled for. But just because a person is white doesn't make them a racist. Everybody deserves a fair chance in life, and I hope that you get that, and I hope that you can overcome what setbacks you were afforded and what bad things happen to you while you're at Pineview. It's a direct reflection of, I guess, the whole academic of what you're talking about. But asking everybody to the mass to conform to a small consensus is asking for something that is not going to ever
Please
happen.
direct your comments
Sorry.
to the board. That's
Sorry,
who you're
ma'am.
supposed to be talking
I apologize. I apologize. Basically, the brain pop, if you watch the video, it starts off and the whole thing is everybody wants systemic racism to end. But little Johnny is friends with little John. One's black, one's white. But then all of a sudden they see a video. Now little Johnny finds out that little Jimmy's mom makes more than little Johnny's mom. And then you find this. So basically the whole video now separates. It creates racism. It doesn't bring involvement. It doesn't show unity. It doesn't provide any educational information except for teaching what the world wants to be rid of, systemic racism. You're teaching that to our children, not you, but the videos. My next issue is the mass that we have to do. Thank you very much for all of you standing up to the health department this morning and asking a direct question. Your direct question asked was, what is the percentage that we're going to have to see to get rid of masks? Ultimately, you got the answer, which was 0%. Don't even understand how a health professional or doctor could even sit there, I want to see 0% for so long. It's unrealistic in its entirety. Basically, teachers are stressed out. You're going to burn them out. That's what the health department's wanting to do. Right now, they're teaching 2 different ways at the same time. Science goes through there, facts go through. The CDC says point blank in their thing, it says if a student is seated 6 feet apart, masks may be considered. They're not mandatory. They don't suggest it. It leaves it up to the school board to make that decision. I implore you today, when you vote on that, keep the masks in when they're going into school. That's great. But when they sit down in the classroom, allow those children to see facial recognition, to let a teacher teach the way that they are been trained to all their lives. It is very important for a child to learn that. There's 7 core facial expressions that a child learns from. The building basic blocks of, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Teresa DeWitt.
Hello. I wanted to build on some of the concerns that everyone has on the BLM movement, but I also wanted to go further back to some of the history of the Marxism, and then it went to critical theory, and then the watered-down version was critical race theory, and then we go down and we have other programs. And I would ask the school board that if we are going to select something that is going to have a narrative, a conversation that addresses all races, that it be empirically based, is researched and it is cited. Also, too, the goal of all of these programs is to state that you are only free if you overthrow these organizations, okay, these systemic organizations. My opinion is that our school system is a systemic organization in itself. The police department is a systemic organization in itself. So we have to ask ourselves, is Sarasota Schools racist? Are your teachers racist? Or have there been any incidents of racism? And if there have been, then we need to find a program that is culturally based curriculum that does not pull out one race. So then our goal, I believe, as a systemic organization, it should be, is Sarasota going to be the district that is the calm in the storm and states we are addressing or exploring any type of cultural bias within our systemic environment? And I do want to give an example that how this has gone from the teacher training, and then some of the kids were telling us that it's happening, and then you guys have become aware of some of that. But it's coming our way. And the thing is that there was a shooting with 2 police officers, and what you didn't see on the video is that the protesters were shouting the police officers' names, but then they were shouting their wives' names and then their kids' names. And then they were shouting where their kids went to school at. So they were told to put name tags, given permission to put over that. So that is what you did not see on some of the videos and on mainstream media. So we need to be the calm in the storm. We need to stand our ground, and we need to decide what we are going to do. And Florida state law says if you are going to have a curriculum, that it has to at least have a reviewer of one parent. So depending on what category you put this in, and Mr. Aspen, I appreciate you tabling the BLM because there is a shift occurring. But just because it's happening, we don't have to be so part of it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Megan McCall.
Hello, members of the school board and fellow parents and previous students. I'm not going to be overly verbose in my statement because we all have a lot to say, and I'm just going to get straight to the point. My name is Megan McCall. I have 3 kids in Sarasota schools. I'm growing more and more concerned with the actions of the school board each day. John Russo's life was turned upside down after restraining a violent student the day after 17 kids were murdered just a few hundred miles away. Meanwhile, someone in this building enjoys quiet anonymity, having placed a violent student at Brookside. My next concern was reading that Laura Kingsley identified a problem in our district. Sarasota's teachers are predominantly white, middle-class women. After reading Shiraki Holly's book about systemic racism, she thought our teachers would benefit. Does she think they're a problem? This school board has let us down, put our kids in danger, and introduced leftist indoctrination, whether it be brain pop, CLR, CRT, 1619, etc., pushing BLM rhetoric. One of BLM's core tenets is defunding the police that protect our community. If major metropolitan cities can move to defund the police, I call on the citizens of Sarasota to defund the school board. Thank you.
Thank you. Crystal Montnaraz? Sorry.
My name is Crystal Matuzas. My daughter goes to Sky Academy in Englewood. I'm reading this on behalf of someone that couldn't be here today. Today is one of the most important board meetings of our lifetime. Recent evidence such as mandatory teacher training in critical racial theory, i.e. Dr. Holly training, and open access to Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ modules on Brain Pop has now made parents believe that they cannot trust their children's safety while in Sarasota County schools. How outrageous to expose innocent children to LGBTQ lifestyles and choices without the supervision and consent of parents. Furthermore, as I outlined in a prior letter, the teaching of critical race theory is a threat to national security. I am in receipt of comments made by board member Ms. Shirley Brown regarding today's meeting. I am happy to attach the evidence if needed. Controversial comment number 1. On the agenda for the meeting will be a revisit of the mask mandate for Sarasota County schools. Ms. Brown has already indicated this will be a 3-2 vote and has already decided her decision without additional facts and public input from the meeting today. I believe this is a dereliction of duty and shows contempt for public comment as well as clear scientific evidence that makes mask mandates controversial at best. Either way, Ms. Brown's contempt for public and parental input is a threat to our children's safety and welfare. I don't want to speculate, but I get the sense that Ms. Brown believes that the state knows better than the parent. Controversial comment number 2. In regards to Brain Pop and its disgusting content, Ms. Brown made the comment that getting rid of Brain Pop is, and I quote, like throwing out dictionaries because they have some objectionable words in them. Ms. Brown, that is exactly what parents do. They filter content that is not age appropriate. Parents cancel TV subscriptions because of bad content. Parents expect the same to happen in our schools. Would Ms. Brown be agreeable to removing all internet filters? Because after all, why filter in the internet just because there is some bad stuff on it? Would Ms. Brown be okay if students viewed pornography in school? The Austin, Texas School District recently voted to allow the teaching of anal sex in its sex education classes. Would this be an acceptable module on Brain Pop? And if Ms. Brown takes no objection in these modules being in Brain Pop, then surely she would not object to a module on the dangers of Antifa and Black Lives Matters as Marxist groups, or the teaching of Jesus Christ offer the best solution to racism. We parents are watching. We believe decisions being made by this school board are putting our children and ultimately our country in danger. We parents are prepared to petition Governor DeSantis under Article 4, Section 7A of the Florida State Constitution to remove any school board member who shows dereliction of duty. Thank you.
Thank you. Carla Blake.
My name is Carla Blake. I am a mother of 4. I went to Venice Elementary, Venice Junior High, and Venice High School. I'm not stating when I graduated. I am here to discuss a couple of things. First, masks were addressed, and I understand this morning it was a number that needed to be 0. And again, I don't believe that death tolls are supporting masks. What you're seeing is children who are introverted or shy, and now they're going into an isolation and they're not seeing expression on other people. You can see how hard it is to look at an audience with masks. Imagine what that looks like in a classroom to teachers and to one another. So now they're not eye contact. They're not learning social skills, which we are as parents trying to teach our kids to get ahead in life. Eye contact is important. They're not wanting to look at each other. In the grocery stores, people don't want to look at each other. But now we are allowing, as of Monday, bars are going to be open, restaurants are open, people are allowed to congregate, and they're certainly doing it in protests, and masks are not being worn. If our children are sitting 6 feet apart, they have plexiglass around them. I don't understand why, when they're sitting in their classroom, they still need these masks. They're dehydrated. They're breathing in toxins because they're not getting oxygen. My son called me today. He went into the bathroom to tell me that he can't breathe. He feels like he's suffocating, and could he come home? That the teaching is no different in the classrooms. That he asked if he could bring his own computer to school because the technology at school is so slow that he cannot use his computer. Could he bring his home computer? Because the teachers are teaching the kids remotely. They're teaching the kids remotely because it's being recorded and it's being posted onto the blackboard. So the kids that are actually physically in the classroom are not getting the same kind of attention and instruction. Now, if these plexiglasses were purchased, which I'm trying to find where they were purchased, my understanding it was China, were there bids on this for this purchase and this kind of purchase to be made? Well, now that it's made, why aren't we utilizing it, and why do these kids have to wear masks? Even cheerleaders, Friday night at a football game, they're athletes, they're cheering, they're 6 feet apart. I was a cheerleader for 8 years. I mean, why are they having to be masked? This is detrimental to their health. And now the kids are having to clean the plexi with chemicals. For some homes, we use organic chemicals. Are organic chemicals in the school system? This is on their skin. Are they being given gloves to wear so that they don't touch these chemicals? I don't know about you, but when I'm at home cleaning, I wear gloves.
Thank you
for listening.
Deborah Barkley.
My name is Deborah Barkley. As a parent, I'm here on behalf of my children. The only reason my 2 gifted dual VPA children are still enrolled in our district this year is because Dr. Frost has not failed me yet during the years that she has had my children. I grew up here. I eagerly enrolled my oldest child in 2007, but now my trust has been broken. Based on the workshop this morning, I recognize that the mask requirement is firm. You're probably not going to lift it. It is detrimental. I see it with my own children already, though your health expert isn't interested, and therefore neither are you. Moving on to curriculum concerns, I too was going to talk about brain pop. Thank you. One board member has repeatedly publicly been dismissive and rude towards Mrs. Ziegler and Mr. Robinson, and has responded rudely to many concerned parents. Why would we accept training or curriculum on how to treat others with respect and dignity from a woman who models neither? Obviously, we parents who seek education without an agenda for our children do not trust you to keep divisive material out of our schools. Your assurances mean nothing if the culture you create means attempting to indoctrinate our children like it's your right to do so. I too have a son who was bullied mercilessly in middle school for being a white Christian male. Having even one teacher or administrator who believes that any child is inherently racist or requires less love than another student, or that one life matters more than any other, is dangerous and unacceptable. And that makes you dangerous and unacceptable. Parents do have the encompassing right to raise their child. There are still many issues to tackle. I trusted you, and you've broken that trust. You don't get a second chance to harm my children, and you are harming my children. They trust me because I do whatever it takes to keep them safe and well in every way. So this year, I'm trapped, frustrated, hurt, sad, and angry. This type of in-person school was the best of no great options for us this year because I don't trust you to do right by my children. I don't blame any board member who chooses private school for their children, knowing how corrupt this board and the district is. In fact, I respect them even more for choosing to be here and try to make a difference for 43,000 other children. As we plan for next year, we will choose a school that will allow my amazing children to learn and pursue their passions without fear and distrust, without masks, and without the risk of teachers being trained to view them as an enemy to their peers. Whatever it takes, we have a plan so they will continue to thrive and excel, no thanks to most of you. I wish I could still trust you. I really wanted to. You're going to be missing out on some really great kids with so much to offer.
Thank you very much. Randy McLennan.
Thank you. I wanted to let you know what we were doing today. About 2 o'clock, quite a few of us gathered out front, and we were praying for you and for our schools. We need to see God back in our schools. We need to see God back in our kids. One of the things that we're going to start trying to do is to work on a way and a plan to put the 10 Commandments back into the hearts of our kids. We're working on how we're going to do that, but we've got to do it. You know, when you look at most of the education that goes on in the school system, it almost should be more like behavioral modification, where you teach certain things, leave certain things out in order to move kids in a particular direction in their behavior. But you know, a long time ago, God said that you can't change a person's heart like that. It has to come from the inside, from Him. And we've taken God out of the school, so we're not teaching kids to depend on God to change their life. We're depending on how you train them in school to change their life. And that's been going on for quite a few years, and look how well it's turned out. Most of the people who are angry and upset and rioting were raised through the school system that should be more behavioral modification than it is education. But it says in the Bible that true education, true knowledge, true wisdom starts with the fear of the Lord. So we're going to be praying for you each by name regularly. We're going to be praying more for our school, and we're going to do everything we can to see our nation and our schools turn back toward God.
Thank you. Carly Sullivan.
Hello, thank you for a chance to speak. I was hesitating whether or not to speak because I currently have 2 of my 4 children home doing remote school, so I'm a teacher's assistant as well as a professional. But I have scribbled together some notes, so bear with me. I'm a product of Sarasota County Schools, kindergarten through 12th grade, and I loved every year of my education. I went to Fruitville Elementary, Goshen Elementary, Sarasota Middle School, Booker Middle School, and Booker High School, VPA, and then soccer. I went on to, I have 4 children, like I said, currently 3 enrolled in Sarasota County schools. 1 is still in preschool, would be in kindergarten next year. And they are phenomenal students who have loved school every single year prior to this year. I have a middle schooler who has come home complaining of sore throats and headaches every day. I have had 2 other children who I've pulled out and are currently doing remote for as long as I can last and they can last, hoping that things were going to change, which doesn't sound like it's the case at this point. So now I'm considering other options for my children who've been in gifted school and gifted programs and excelling in testing and other measures. So I know that testing speaks to a lot of you, and I just want you to know that my kids who are scoring 5s and mostly 5s and A's and B's in gifted classes are actually looking at being pulled out of school in order to give them the best education considering the times and what you guys are implementing. So I just wanted to make that clear. It's not to brag about my own kids, although I would do that readily. But you have to understand that the parents who are going to pull their kids are the ones that are it's going to affect you guys, okay? I went on to earn a master's degree and became a licensed therapist. For the last 15 years, I've been helping adults heal from trauma they have experienced throughout their lives, but particularly childhood trauma. This trauma can look like the big T trauma of abuse and neglect, or the little t trauma of ongoing emotional distress. So I'm here to submit to you that the masking, distancing, isolating that has been implemented as a part of this year's school opening regimen is causing ongoing emotional distress that the body processes as trauma. We are creating a culture of fear in our kids. Okay, do you guys understand that? I deal with people who every day are coming to me to heal from a culture of fear, whether it was implemented in their own family lives, whether it was implemented as a societal thing. They're trying to heal from that because it's producing anxiety, it's producing relational problems, it's producing depression in their lives as adults. So what we're doing, so maybe the doctor can't tell you what's gonna happen, but I can tell you what's gonna happen as they become adults. They're gonna be dealing with things that you guys can't even measure. So maybe it's not the little t trauma of emotional distress, maybe it's the big T trauma of child abuse that you guys who are voting for this crap, and I'll leave a few of you out of that, are implementing. And you might want to just consider that. If I was a public decider, I would just consider that. So think about it.
Thank you. Ashley Cody.
Thanks for letting me speak. I've had to take the time off work since this is now in a working hour, so thanks for that. Sick time is awesome. I hope now that I'm voicing my concerns publicly, I can get someone to respond other than Ms. Brown. My first point is clear, the lack of response from the board. You've advised that you will not answer our questions here, that you will answer our emails. No emails. Over a week, no emails from any of you, except for, again, Ms. Brown. Now, I've seen and heard that there's been comments on Facebook from several board members, but again, they can't answer our emails. Why? Now, this training video has been an issue, obviously. Thank you, Dr. Asplin, for responding to me. I appreciate it. I asked to be on a committee because you guys, I've been watching the workshops from home. I'm sorry, not from home. I'm actually an essential worker, so I've been actually working in a physical office that doesn't have a mask. So, good for that. Now, Ms. Brown, your emails. This is not very becoming at all of a board member. And I've said it over and over again. Your comments, I believe my last email was, your mics are still on. Watch your mics. Okay? Your comments to Mr. Robinson, Ms. Ziegler, in general, have been horrid. I do not want my child learning from you. I do not want you.
You know, this should not be a personal attack on any board members.
I'm sorry.
Just tell us.
When was that? Where is that in the thing I signed? Yeah. Where is that in the thing I signed? No. And you're taking my time, Ms. Sucker.
You can
so where was that in my?
More time.
Where was that? Yes, please make sure that I have more time.
More time. She said she wasn't answering any questions.
Right. We're not supposed to engage, right?
No. You listen, she talks.
Can I have more time, please?
Yes, you have more time.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Brown's email to me about this video, this training. There has been a campaign of misleading information regarding this professional development training to teachers, that some teachers have lower expectations of minority students and won't call on these individuals, that school is referenced as a birthplace to prison pipeline. Prison pipeline. And this is your schools. Your schools. You are to protect my child. My child. My 7-year-old who is in 2nd grade at Lakeview Elementary School that has to clean his own partitions, carry it with him to cafeteria, and take off his mask and eat his food and not socialize with his friends because you're sitting here doing what? What are you doing? Yes, I'm irate because you don't respond to emails. You don't respond to all of these people in here who want to help. We want to help, but you can troll on Facebook. I'm sorry, I watched the YouTube chat. And I'm sorry, whoever said there was only 4, I believe it was you, sir. You said there was 4 on today, there was over 60. Over 60, and I was multiple comments because, again, I am a concerned tax-paying parent. You want to take my money? Teach my child math, science, social studies. PE, art, fine. Teach my child. Do not indoctrinate him with your beliefs and your political agenda. Please consider what you're doing to these children. It is my right. I chose to have a child. I chose it. You didn't choose it. And you don't choose how to raise my child. It's my choice.
Okay, thank you. John Wilson.
John Wilson. I've had 3 kids in this school system. My oldest one is 24, and they all went to the same elementary school. You know, I had something different written down, and I'm not going to approach it that way. The reason I'm not going to approach it is you're giving these people their time to talk about masks when it's already been decided. I have it right here. Okay? What we really want is you want to hear everybody, but you don't want to listen to them. Okay? That's what it comes down to. I'm a shareholder of Sarasota County School District. You know what that means? We all are. And you work for us. I think you forgot that. And I'm tired of 3 votes to 2. That decides everything. Well, listen, 3 votes to 40,000 votes back here. And you just have to, and then last night you tell me about, oh, that's not part of the curriculum in Brain Pop, but we can't help if they search it. Oh, my daughter, who's in 2nd grade, just gonna go, listen, let me type in here, BLM, search, everything else. Really? I mean, really? So I appreciate you taking care of it, but I am not naive enough to think that nobody knew anything about it. For real? I mean, stop. What's going to happen here is we're going to take our school system back, okay? You need to get on board with the parents. You need to keep your foot out of the household. We'll let us raise our kids. You do everything else, and we have them. That's all I have to say. I'm just telling you, we're going to take it back.
Yes, we are. Amen. Yes. Thank you. Scott Titus.
Good afternoon. Thank you for hearing me. I picked an emotional day to be here, I guess. This is my first school board meeting. I have 4 children that have been through the school system. My youngest right now is a senior at Sarasota High School. He's a student athlete. And although I'm not here for the same issue that everybody else was here, there's certainly some congruency in some of the things that have gone on. I appreciate the school board members. I too am a public servant, have been in this area for 25 years. I understand the challenges of having to make decisions that affect other people. I understand how difficult that can be. With that being said, we've done a lot of things through the school system to try and be inclusive and allow change, trying to keep our fingers on the pulse of things that are going on. I'm here today on behalf of my son because he's a student athlete. And so after he left school today, he's at practice. Last week, on 9/11, he's a member of the Sarasota High School varsity football team, and he was prohibited from taking the field for the national anthem. He is also in the Suncoast Technical College program for firefighters. So as you can imagine, this is very near and dear to his heart. He called me really angry. My son is a large young man, and he is a opposable force, and he wanted to exercise some civil disobedience, and I had to talk him down over the phone and say, that's not how you handle this. You do what your coach tells you, and I will follow the proper avenues. And I understand that there's a lot of frustration and emotion today with school board members. I've not experienced that before. I'm hoping I don't experience that, because I don't want to get to the point some of these people are. But I can tell you is I talked to the principal. Principal Jones said it's a protocol. It's following protocol. I appreciate Principal Jones. I think he's been a great student advocate for a lot of years. I don't really have much bad to say. I do know that there's been a couple of issues we've talked about where when it becomes unpopular, a little bit edgy, he doesn't really want to encounter those things. As a public servant, I understand that. What I am saying is what leads to some of these issues is inconsistency throughout the schools. There's different rules at different schools. Baseball players are out for the national anthem. Cross-country runners are out for the national anthem. The district AD, James Slayton, says there's no school board policies that force or prevent a team to be on the field for the national anthem. Sarasota High School Athletic Director Mark Aschenberger, this is a quote, says, they've not been on the field for the national anthem for 25 years. This is a logistics issue involving the band and both teams trying to enter and exit the field at the same time. And this isn't going to change. I think maybe Mr. Aschenbrenner doesn't realize who he works for. I'd like to request a meeting and follow up with whoever you deem appropriate for me to pursue this. I'd like to pursue it on behalf of my son. This is not my issue, but I will be his voice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Adele, Julianne.
I'm here to speak as a grandmother of two elementary school children. They are in Englewood, and they are in Englewood, not really in Sarasota. But at the same time, I just want to say that since the pandemic, this country, this world, has gone into a deep state of fear. And from that fear, our politicians, everyone, is running on the reaction of fear alone. Yes, it is a bad thing that it happened, but I'm not convinced that it needs to go to a shutdown, to a mask, to a plexiglass thing. To separate even you individuals is ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and it's got to come to an end. They're trying to take our freedoms away by having us be in fear. Yeah. Fear-mongering is what it's all about. And the only other thing I want to add today is for those few gentlemen that came up here to talk about how they were racistly slurred, I give my immense apologies to anybody that has gone through that. This is not a country where we should be allowed to make fun of other people. We should embrace Jesus' law. Jesus' rule is so easy that we would have no wars. There would be no fighting. There would be no racism if people did one thing. The golden rule. Do to yourself what you would do unto others. Amen. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Millicent Pulio.
Good afternoon, board members. Many of you know who I am. I've been here and been a thorn at your side over the years. What can I say? I'm a mother of 3 daughters that I raised here. They attended Lakeview. From there, they would go to Pineview until they graduated, with the exception of Rachel that had to learn her lesson. She's a senior at the University of Missouri as I speak, because she thought she was Miss Popular, and Mother laid down the law. Mother met with the instructors, and I wanted the cards on the table, just as we had met many years ago with the principal, Steve Largo, when the parents felt there is something wrong with this instructor. He doesn't know how to teach when there are so many students failing. He was removed. It is the job of the parent. I am stressing here, I am so glad that I applaud you, our new superintendent, but I would take it one step further. The graphic itself is very troubling. It has to be removed. There are no exceptions. When you see a black fist, tell me what comes to your mind. And if that's the case, I challenge you all. I want a brown fist, because I'm Puerto Rican and I'm brown. I want a yellow one for the Taína and Indian in me, and you can prove it in my DNA. I am here to honor my 93-year-old Korean vet father today, because I am the daughter who financially put a roof over his head, sacrificed, owned the business for over 30 years across this school board building when it was purchased. I have seen the prejudice. I have been called a spick. I know what that is. I was that brown girl among all the Breck commercials, all the blonde. Dr. Martin Luther King said we should not be judged by our color. Am I too light brown? Many come to Florida to be bronze. Does that make me less important, less significant? I taught my daughters life is tough. Life is not fair. I'm sorry to have to hear what happens still today, and it will probably go on to the end of time. But as God is my witness, it is my job as a parent. I regret I will not be able to be the volunteer this year for the children that break my heart at Alta Vista with Dr. Shirley. She made a difference and continues to make a difference. I met her many years ago. I'm proud of her. And many others, but I'm also very saddened with some things that continue in this wonderful county of ours. I suggest that tax money go towards books and literacy, the books I did not have as a child. This is the latest one released today, Caroline. Look at it. The Supreme Court Justice Scalia. What did he stand for?
Millicent, thank you. Nova Negro Mitchell? Could you say your name, honey, please?
Nora Mitchell.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Nora Mitchell. Oh, thank you. I am a sophomore at Booker High School, and I am a member of Sarasota Students for Justice. I'm here today to present an issue that I believe to be critical to Sarasota County schools and their curriculum, that being the Black Lives Matter movement. Recently, at the September 1st school board meeting, the school board took a clear stance on Black Lives Matter in schools. It was made clear that in their eyes, the Black Lives Matter movement should not and would not be allowed to be taught in Sarasota schools. This declaration is one of a series of attacks on Black Lives Matter in schools. This county has a history of suppressing support for the Black Lives Matter movement and has cultivated a county culture where a fundamental issue, the issue of racial injustice, is prohibited. This series of decisions on Black rights in our schools is detrimental to our students, and by default, our community and society at large. Learning about the Black Lives Matter movement is extremely empowering for all students, especially students of color. There is pride in seeing our culture, and most importantly, our fight for our rights represented in the curriculum. Learning about a movement that is vital to so many of us gives us hope for a better future with greater racial equality. Furthermore, it allows those students who are privileged enough to never have to experience racism to have an opportunity to be educated on racism and to learn about the systemic racism that is present in our society. Equipping students with knowledge about racism is extremely beneficial for students when they walk out of the doors of their schools and into the real world. It gives them the tools to build a society better than the one already in place. By refusing to allow Black Lives Matter to be taught in our schools, you are doing a great disservice to our students. Many in our community agree with this assertion, so much so, in fact, that they have signed the Sarasota Students for Justice petition. Over 800 people have signed our petition and agree that Black Lives Matter should be taught in our schools. Mind you, we started this petition a week ago and have received hundreds of signatures in the first day alone. It is time for the school board to acknowledge that Black Lives Matter. Every life, no matter your race, should be valued. We should not live in a society where one race's life inherently has more value than others, and we shouldn't allow that message to be perpetuated in schools. It is not controversial that Black lives matter just as much as white ones. Every time you make a careless statement, every time you shy away from Black Lives Matter because you believe it to be too political or too contentious, every time you intentionally suppress support for this movement, you, the school board, are making a statement. You are making the statement that Black lives don't matter. You are invalidating the struggle of people of color. You are actively perpetuating racism. You are continuing.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Alma Dasberg?
Oh, she's not here. Oh, never mind.
Hi, guys. Hello, my name is Alma, and I am a member of Sarasota Students for Justice and a 10th grader at Booker High School. I am here, along with my peers, to ask you to reconsider the decision to bar Black Lives Matter from the curriculum. We cannot disregard current global events and abandon intellectual integrity. Education has shown us the need to push ourselves to learn more, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's a long process, even when it's difficult. What message is it sending about the purpose of education when we don't allow important issues to be taught? Issues that concern our nation's history and a pivotal opportunity to address how we want to move forward. We are not in the classroom to endorse, condone, or condemn any historical fact or movement, but rather to learn about them, to contextualize them, and to discuss them. By silencing Black Lives Matter and declaring it partisan, you are ignoring realities that shape lives and are depriving students of the tools to critically think about them. We cannot concede to the call to ignore what is so clearly in front of us. We cannot allow those made uncomfortable by the cries for change dictate the learning of the kids you are responsible for educating. The kids who will be the future of this country. For us, Black lives matter. Black minds matter. We must take it as a responsibility to address how microaggressions, implicit biases, and racism within our educational systems has contributed to the continued suppression of young, brilliant minds. We must take it as a responsibility to educate students about the complexity of our present and past. We must work better and be better for every kid within Sarasota County Schools. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Catherine Carrigan?
Hello, how are you?
Hi.
Can learn a lot of really great things from the citizens here today. A lot of really well-informed citizens. I had a couple of concerns, and I actually feel like I have a few more, but I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet. My first concern was regarding how the public has deserved to know the metrics in which the mask mandate be relaxed and removed, and I believe that that was answered at the workshop. If you haven't seen it, you can go back and check. Hopefully you'll be addressing it a little bit more specifically. That is very concerning. My second concern, which my hope is that it brings thoughtful discussion, though it might seem a little bit premature to talk about this, but after watching the workshop today, I feel like it's not. It's time we start talking about this. It's regarding the COVID-19 vaccine. It's coming. It's coming very, very soon. My previous concern about the mask mandate is regards to the fact that you are looking at CDC guidelines that are stating recommendations, and you are taking it and making it mandatory. That's concerning. It's very concerning because you know this vaccine is coming, the COVID-19 vaccine is coming, and the CDC will be recommending it. What are you gonna do then? I just hope this brings some thoughtful discussion because this is a very rushed vaccine. There's a lot of questions. I don't know if what your personal feelings are about it or what, but is it going to be mandated so that all students, staff, and teachers are going to be required to have this COVID-19 vaccine in order to remove the mask? Just a question. Or maybe it's for them to, hang on one second, facial recognition. Or maybe it's for the fact that they, sorry, I lost my train of thought, would even be able to attend school. I don't know. These are the questions I have and the concerns, and I hope, again, it brings some thoughtful discussions. So I hope that we can see, just discussing so many great things here about mask mandates. By the way, I never really said who I was. Sorry. I'm a former school teacher in Sarasota County. I loved being a teacher here. I loved working for the county. And I have 2 students now in elementary school, and I have 1 in preschool. I have a 2nd grader, and I have a 4th grade boy I'm so proud of. And they're being so positive about the situation, but me as a parent will only be so patient. And right now, what is being done with the mask mandate is very concerning for public health. As a public health decision, this should be parents' choice, just like the vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Amy Grotz.
My name is Amy Grotz from Northport. I'm a teacher and a mom. I want to address the emergency mask policy. Today I wear this mask under protest. There is no mask law in the state of Florida. When you as a school board placed mask restrictions on the school district, it affected over 50,000 human beings who work and go to school in Sarasota County. Such requirements should be supported by a current law. No such law exists. A policy this extreme should not be based on fear. The fact is that COVID deaths today in Florida are almost at 0%. How long will we continue this hardship to children and staff when it makes no sense? This policy is no longer valid because it was based on a declaration of emergency that no longer exists. When the state of emergency ended on September 5th, there was no reason to continue these measures. There are those in this district that will agree with you. Those individuals have every right to wear a mask. I respect their right to wear a mask. The people who disagree with you deserve your respect. Their viewpoints are equally as important as yours. We were created equal. Even the Declaration of Independence says that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The virus didn't take those rights away. We were born with God-given freedom to be the controllers of our own bodies and our own lives. The school board does not possess the authority to cause over 50,000 people to wear masks all day, every day, with no solid or legal mathematical reason. I encourage you to look at today's COVID numbers and update your policy to match the current facts. Set your fears aside and with a sound mind, please take the time to change your mask policy to reflect the changes in the state of Florida. It is time to lift the restrictions so that the over 50,000 free individuals who work and learn in Sarasota County can discuss this topic with their families and decide for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Kodak?
Rhodes. I'm sorry.
What'd she say?
I think you said Amy Cook.
Thank you.
Ma'am?
It's C-O-O-I-C or C-O-D?
It's Cook, sorry. My name is Amy Cook, and my kids go to Northport School. Do you know the risk of wearing a mask? Prolonged and habitual wearing of masks weakens the body's immune response, lowering your ability to fight off other pathogens and increasing risk of disease to the wearer. Politicians and public health officials have made the decision that are not based on logic or science and seem to be lacking in humanity. The WHO, CDC, and the New England Journal of Medicine have all acknowledged that there is no scientific justification for normal, healthy people to wear masks. The CDC posted on August 30th that cloth masks that are used to slow the spread of COVID-19 offer little protection against wildfire smoke. I would suggest you to look at the particle size of those. It does not take anyone with a degree to see the blatant lies. We are being force-fed, and this school system is indoctrinating in our children as we speak. 2,300 years ago, long before Islam, Arabs discovered that forcing people to cover their noses and their mouths broke their will and individuality and depersonalized them. It made them submissive. That's why they impose on every woman the mandatory use of face fabric over her face. Modern psychology explains it. Without a face, we don't exist as independent beings. Your child looks in the mirror between the ages of 2 and 3 and is discovered as an independent being. The mask is the beginning of deleting individuality. For those who do not know history are condemned to repeat it. Why are we risking health issues and psychological damage to our children over a mask that the CDC clearly states does not slow the spread of this virus? Us parents who are awake have reached out to other parents across the United States asking for their stories, and I would like to share a few of those with you. So please let this sink in. Rape victim. Shh. Keep quiet. Hand over mouth. Don't say a word or you're going to regret it. Creates massive anxiety, along with PTSD, voicing out and rebelling, or the opposite spectrum, suicide. It has been reported that children going back to school have developed bacterial infections from these face diapers. No COVID reported. It also makes it easier for them to not be identified for child traffickers. Another story. I'm an ICU nurse. We have had 0 COVID patients in our unit. What we do have is a big increase in patients with antibiotic resistance to pulmonary staph infections.
Thank you.
And just so you know, my 5-year-old who has allergies comes home every day in this spit, disgusting mess.
Thank you.
No, I'm not done. I'm not done.
Please turn off the mic.
I am not done.
Turn off the mic.
You can turn off the mic. I will keep speaking. This is not healthy. This is going to cause him to go to the hospital.
Amen.
You can't shut us up. I'm sorry.
And if you want a form, if you want the form for the exemption, I've got it after the meeting.
Can't shut us up.
SRO officers, please start clearing the room unless it stops.
I don't think you have to have them called.
Yeah, we're going to clear the room.
Good.
Yes, outside, I have the exemption forms. You can sign up all of your children and yourself so that these people
Good.
can't tell you what to do.
Goodbye.
Shirley. Shame
Goodbye.
on you shouldn't wear black underwear with white pants. It's disgusting.
God bless you.
Oh, I'm glad you're looking. Sorry. Sorry, guys. That was bad.
There's a child who actually wants to speak
Okay.
himself for something that
Superintendent, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
We filled out a card, but never got a card. And I gave it to someone. I never. His name never got called.
I have a blank card here.
It's not blank. It was filled. I gave it to one of your staff members here. They said they would give it to you.
Okay, but tell me your name.
My name is Sia Logan. I'm a 7th grade student at Sarasota Middle School. I'm going to be representing my friends, my peers, and Sarasota County schools within my speech. Due to recent events, the Sarasota County School Board has made an emergency action on the mask mandate that has an effect over 90 days. The emergency action will expire after the 90 days that it was issued. This has already expired, and you guys have, at the recent event, you guys have voted to keep the mask. As a well-respected student within the Sarasota County School District, I'm very passionate about going to school. I've always been motivated by and encouraged by school. I was lead anchor on TNN, Tatum News Network, at Tatum Ridge Elementary, and I've also been a part of student council at Sarasota Middle School. I remember my first day of middle school last year, and I loved it. I felt like I've been given more responsibility and freedom. With the new rules that you've set in place in schools around the county, now it feels like a prison. To begin with, wearing a mask is toxic to your social, emotional, and physical health. Your mouth and nose are not to be covered up by wearing a mask, and your CO2 just cycles back around in your mask, and you cannot gain the fresh oxygen that you are supposed to get. Additionally, your facial expressions matter. Talking only makes up 8% of your social skills, and 65% of communication skills are done non-verbally. I come from a family that cares how I'm feeling, but just imagine all the children who go to school each day who may not get the right amount of affection at home. But when teachers and students are all masked up, there are no smiles or happiness being passed around. And as I mentioned, I always looked forward to going to school. But after the first day of school this year, I felt depressed. I've never experienced depression before, and my mom noticed a change within me. It was really, really sad. And honestly, as a well-educated student and someone who's as passionate going to school, I didn't want to go back. The second day, but just imagine how much harder it was for the kids who already suffer from depression or don't have parents that are able to take the time and talk with them and encourage them regarding the decision. I hate not being able to see my friends or my teacher's face, and this needs to stop. Your decisions influence the everyday lives of students. Lots of my friends are considering moving into private schools just because of masks. How crazy is that? And for all the people who want to wear a mask, they can. It should be a choice, not mandated. You are taking away students' freedom and making school harder for us. Is that what you really want? If you really wanted the best for students, you would make it an option to restrict oxygen and put cloth over your mouth all day long. There is no proof that masks are effective, and if you still want to wear one, then go ahead. After all, masks protect you. Thank you.
Dr. Aspen? Were there changes made to the agenda?
Yes, the following changes were made to the agenda after its publication. Item number 9, an addendum was added to the instructional classified personnel report, and item 12 was added to new business.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion?
I move for approval of the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Under discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Does it?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. This thing isn't working again?
And those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
And the motion passes 4-1. Okay. May I have a motion on item 35, new business, please?
I move that the school board approve the advertisement of policy 3.24 COVID-19 face mask as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Goodwin?
Well, I guess I can start this off. Some people have left. I'm sorry about that. But As far as the Department of Health goes, they have been wonderful partners for us. They have done above and beyond. Some departments of health in certain counties are not as helpful as others. There's a lot of strife that's going on in the upper levels of their management as to how much they can work with school districts. One school district in South Florida could not get them to actually put in writing their approval of their reopening plan, and so they had to include a video clip of that. And we just are really thankful for our health department because they've been really wonderful to work with. When asked about the numbers of and what they should be to eliminate masks, they were reluctant to give a number. But I have a number in my mind, in my head, as I have followed closely the pediatric numbers that come out from the Department of Health. There's an extensive report that I print out every Friday. I'll encourage you all to look for that on the Department of Health website. It comes out Friday afternoons. And in the last week, we are sitting, pediatrically speaking, and 18 years of age and under, at a positivity rate in Sarasota County of 9.6% of our students. More students are getting COVID, more youngsters are getting COVID, and we know. Please, you're not supposed to speak.
Zero. We listen to you. Now please listen to the board.
Very big difference.
We won't have to.
Go ahead, Jane.
The pediatric numbers are there, and they come out from the Department of Health. I believe that those are pediatric numbers 18 years of age and under. They also...
if you don't stop, I will clear the room.
There's always going to be positive tests. There's positive
That's a positive flu test.
Chickenpox. There's always going to be positive. But there's successful
clear the room. Just clear the room.
Have a reset. All right, everybody out.
I think just that.
Can't handle the truth, can you? Can't handle the truth.
You guys just want to be talking.
You didn't even let me speak.
You'll be here long, don't worry about it.
Students, you don't understand.
Good luck.
Our kids will be taken out of school if you don't listen. We will.
It's enough.
Your mama bears.
It's enough.
Your mama bears coming out. Yeah. Stop. You cannot have school without children. You guys are not even parents of small kids.
Just said the whole room.
Remove yourself.
No, they're okay. Leave them.
Vested interests. You can't do this. I respect you.
No, you two are starting it.
Ladies need to.
What?
All right. They started it.
How did you decide who stays and who doesn't?
These people over here didn't say.
We need to warn people who are acting.
There are people who didn't speak who got removed.
I did.
You could have called a recess.
Okay. We will try again. This is a good one.
As far as the positivity rate goes for adults in Sarasota County, looking at the last indication, now it's not done every day, it's only done every other day, it's 2.5% positive test results for the last week for adults. So I think we have to look at both of those numbers. And what I have heard before is that it should be between 3 and 5% for a period of not less than 14 days, but maybe longer, according to what the health department said this morning. That's one indicator. I was just trying to tell you what an indicator is that we're looking at. But our teachers have told us, our employees have told us that they need protection. And we know that children can be carriers in an asymptomatic fashion of COVID, and that they feel very much that they need protection. I'm sorry that it's uncomfortable. I hate wearing a mask. I really do. And I do think there's a lot to be said for not wearing a mask. But at this point in time, we're at a plateau now in the state. The plateau with opening bars and other establishments, we're still all in phase 2, could go up again. It went up, it went down. It went up a second time in the summer. We do not know with influenzas and other things coming that it won't go up again. And that's what we are concerned with, is health and safety of our students and our employees. We have cases today We have people quarantined today. And we are very, very concerned about that. And of the many people that were here who cared to come, and I like hearing from them, I have heard hundreds who are in favor of a full mandatory mask.
Yep.
And that policy is the policy that we're looking at today. And I am in favor of this policy at this point in time. When will we change our minds? We don't know. But I'm just saying to all of you who are left here that we have no choice at this time but to continue it. I see little folks out with masks. I see children out with masks. And I think a lot of times it has a lot to do with how they have learned to wear them. It took me a while to start wearing them at long days in meetings like this, but little peeps, I know it takes them longer, and I know they need breaks, and I understand that. But they need to be protected as well. There's a syndrome called MIS-C. We have 65 cases of that right now in the state of Florida. We have a case in Sarasota County. That scares me to death because that is a multiple inflammation of many systems within a child's body, and it ravages a child, and we don't know the long-term ramifications of it. But those are the kinds of concerns that we have, and this is the reason why, that we are looking at this particular mask and keeping this in place for the remainder of this calendar school year, unless things happen, and we can always change a policy if, in fact, things happen differently. So I would just say to you and to all of those out there, we do care, we do hear you, we do understand. There always are different views. Some of them fall along party lines, some of them fall along medical lines, but we are trying to listen to the medical staff, the Department of Health. The last time we talked about a face covering, initially after we created, with the help of Mr. Hardy, a policy, and it was a little less restrictive. After the meeting, I got called from several doctors saying, "What are you doing? This is not restrictive enough. You must go back to a more true mask. You can't have gaiters and you can't have these other things, and the teachers don't want to have to make the determination of when a mask should be on and when it should be off. They have enough to do right now. Our teachers are trying to teach concurrently with remote students and in classroom students, and we all need to help them in all ways we can. And for those parents who do have remote students, I would say, please help. Please help with your remote student, because there are some issues there. But as far as this policy and what we're voting on today, I am in support of this for the reason that I think it's for the safety of our students and our staff.
Mrs. Ziegler?
Thank you. Just for point of clarification, Madam Chair, I think we're now on item 36. We didn't go to 35, but I think that's fine.
No, the motion came on 35.
It's about audit committee.
That's okay. We can still, we can.
have 35 on the new business.
The motion is on policy 3.24.
The motion was to policy 3.24.
Right. Regardless of, okay.
Regardless of the number,
Right.
the motion that was made referenced policy 3.24.
Perfect. So I will speak to the proposed policy 3.24. Well, first I can say I appreciate everyone who has emailed in and everyone who came today. I know that this is a very passionate issue, and I understand why as a parent. I get it. I want to apologize if I have not responded to certain people's emails. I am trying feverishly to do so, but I hear you, and I recognize how important this is. I do want to thank the Department of Health, Dr. Chuck Henry, Michael Drennan, and Dr. Gordillo for taking the time again today, working with us. And it's interesting, I did pose that question of saying, at what point would we be able to hypothetically lift this mask mandate? How low do we need these infections to go? And the reason I asked that was because in my research, what I have found, many medical professionals would put this theory out there where until a vaccine is put out there and you have approximately 60 to 80% of the community who have taken the vaccine. And that could be, and we talked about today, that could potentially be 2 to 5 years. There's so many hypotheticals in there, but what to me that meant is this is not some short-lived policy. So therefore, I need to take their medical advice and look at it from the sense of they're looking at it from a medical perspective of hoping to get it down to 0. I look at it as, and from a policy-making standpoint of trying to see, listen, making sure that it's effective, what our policy is doing, but it's keeping our staff, our community, and our students safe. But also it's not undermining what our mission is. And I believe that there is a way to do a lot of that without going to full mask all day. And I've expressed my sincere concern, particularly for the lower kiddos, K through 2. I speak from a vantage point of a mom who understands how critical that is in a time of development and learning and instruction. And that is our goal. And I don't believe we need to sacrifice people's health and safety. And I recognize, again, I understand the passion. This has been very difficult for every single person. Whether you are an employee, whether you are a parent, whether you're a member or business owner, I mean, this has created a number of very challenging decisions in front of us. I want to thank our teachers who are working incredibly hard and trying to be incredibly creative, because they also don't love the masks, but and some support it, some don't. But they are marching along and doing the best they can in a very extraordinary environment, and I want them to know how much I appreciate them. However, again, I go back to looking at all those items. My concern is that it's going to have too much of a detrimental, particularly on the lower elementary, too much of a detrimental impact on our kiddos and their mental health, certainly, but also their ability to, from an instructional standpoint. I know Mrs. Brown mentioned something about mask breaks. I would really be hopeful to see that take place, because I think that would be a tremendous step forward, maybe easing our foot off the pedal. And so I'd love to entertain an option of that in this policy. And I know we discussed it earlier. So without that, I will not be supporting this as it stands today. I would truly like to see us elevate or lift the pedal a little bit more and provide some mask breaks, because I do believe it will end up causing a long-term implication that we're trying to avoid a short-term implication. Thank you.
Mrs. Brown?
I try to make it a practice to answer my emails, and I guess no good deed goes undone, because I was brought out as the only person that answered emails and then complained that I answer them. But of the more than 100 emails we received on the masks, I came up with an answer that I was giving. I'll share that. Thank you for sharing your thoughtful comments on our mask policy. Health experts tell us that wearing a mask is the best way to slow the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. That is why I fully support our mask mandate and will keep it in force as long as the health department says it is needed. The CDC reports that mitigation strategies could have helped limit the SARS transmission in facilities. To help control the spread of COVID-19, the use of masks is recommended for persons age 2 and over. And then I added today, because during our break I answered some more, I said we had medical professionals tell us again today that there is no reputable reports showing negative implications for wearing masks. They said any theoretical negatives are outweighed by the known positive effects of reducing the spread of COVID virus. And if any of you saw the comments from our medical experts today, that's sort of what they said. I'll often add, if there's a personal thing about a teacher, that they need to talk to the principal. But I believe we need to keep this into effect, because even though the numbers are down right now, our schools have only been open 2 weeks. Yes, we do have cases in our schools. Hopefully, those numbers will stay down because we are wearing our masks. But the bars were opened up, and we saw what happened in July when the bars opened. We've got the holidays coming up where people will be visiting families, getting on planes perhaps. The flu epidemic, and they're talking about when the flu comes through, we're going to have a second wave. The mask may even help keep the flu numbers down. So I am concerned about this. I think it's too soon to take it away. But as I was discussing this morning, I do think that we should allow teachers to give students a mask break if they are sitting quietly at their desk behind the plexiglass. And it was discussed that that could be done through the procedures and with the principals. It doesn't need to be in the mask policy. I agreed to that. So I think we need to look at that. We need to continue to watch these numbers. But, you know, I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope that we can throw our masks away, that we can have friends over. I'm actually having 4 longtime friends over tomorrow for brunch, the first time. Hopefully, I'll be able to get back to doing that once a month, that the numbers don't jump up, that I'm wrong, that we stay low, we stay at 2% or under, and we can do this. But knowing what I know about people when these bars opened last time, I'm afraid it's going to go back up again. And I'm afraid if the flu season comes back, it's going to go up again. We have to keep this in place to keep all of our students safe, to keep our teachers safe, to keep our community safe. And I'm just sorry it's become a political issue. I mean, I saw what it said on several of the masks of the ladies that were here today. You know, it isn't about my politics. It's about my children's health. My daughter's a teacher. I've got grandchildren going to these schools. And I have a lot of friends. And I really, truly care about the kids in this school district and about all of our employees. And I'll tell you the same thing, whether you're for me or against me. I'll respond, but perhaps maybe in the future I'll just say thank you if I disagree with you. So if you get that turt response, you'll know why you're getting that. Thank you.
Mr. Robinson?
You know, when I went to school in Pensacola, LA, Low Alabama, I used to live for the day when the teacher gave us a true-false question, a binary question, or I wish they had multiple choice questions that just had A and B as the answer, not A, B, C, and D, because I excelled in the A, B, and the true-false questions. But now when we're up here as school board members, the binary isn't there. The questions are not binary. These are essay problems. And we're always put into a category of, are you for or against? Are you a yes or a no? But it's never that simple. So we're talking about CDC guidelines. And so if I can read from them, the appropriate and consistent use of masks may be challenging for some students, teachers, and staffs, including younger students, such as those in early elementary schools, students, teachers, and staff with severe asthma or other breathing difficulties. Students and teachers and staff with special educational health care needs, including intellectual and developmental disabilities, mental health conditions, and sensory concerns, or tactical sensitivity. While masks are strongly encouraged to reduce the spread of COVID-19, CDC recognizes there are specific instances when wearing a mask may not be feasible. In these instances, parents, guardians, and caregivers, teachers, and school administrators should consider adoption and alternatives whenever possible. See, that tells me that the CDC is trying to get the numbers as low as possible, not zero. Because if you were going to say, let's get it for zero over a prolonged time, easy answer. We'll close schools, lay off our staff, separate everybody, and not bring people together. That if you really want to get zero from a prolonged period of time, it's probably what you would need to do. We have made decisions to do a trade-off. And those trade-offs are because our implied policy of the school district is to have the spread as least as possible, to get the number as low as possible. Our implied policy is not to get it zero, because if it was zero, we would not have made some of those policy decisions that we have made in the past and continue to make. And why am I bringing this up? Because I think that in our current policy, we need to do what the CDC guideline actually says. We need to have adaptations and alternatives whenever possible, including Ms. Brown's point of giving people breaks. If we allow people to medically opt out from not wearing a mask, so if your goal is to tell people it's 100% mask mandate, it's not entirely accurately or true, because you could have a kid in the class without a mask with kids who have a mask. So if your goal was, again, to say safety, education, get it to zero, you would say in the policy that nobody can opt out, and if they do opt out, they have to go virtual, and they can't be in the same school. But that is not what we're saying. So that is not the inherent purpose of the policy, because if the inherent purpose of the policy was that you would not allow students to opt out and not have a mask in the classroom. And so clearly that's not. And so clearly it has to be trade-offs back and forth. So we're trading off ADA requirements that people may have or medical issues and allowing them to opt out. It's a series of trade-offs. It's not a binary one or two. And so I personally don't think that having masks for 2 to 3 years is going to be a positive educational experiences for our school district or our students. And so we need to look now at the adaptation, at the alternatives we can do. Even if you want to keep mandatory masks with people who can opt out, so it's not really mandatory, you need to look at, well, what's a decision that we're going to use for whenever we're going to stop this? At what point will we adjust? At what point? And hopefully it shouldn't be we're going to have the mask and then the next day take it off. I don't think that that's really what adaptation alternatives is about. There are a myriad of ways to slow the spread. There are a myriad of ways to adapt to the situation. You could look at elementary school, lower younger kids. Look at relaxing the requirements for them, allowing them to have some adaptation alternatives that the CDC guidelines ask for. So you can't sit there and say, I'm for CDC guidelines, except for when I don't agree with them. You can't sit there and say it's mandatory mask, but I'm going to allow kids not to have to wear masks. It's not as clean and as binary as that. And so for the fact that we're not, in my opinion, we're not following the CDC guidelines, because it says that we should have adaptation alternatives whenever possible, I'm not going to be voting for the policy. If we do eventually create a policy that follows CDC guidelines, then I look forward to supporting it. Till that time, I'm not going to support one that doesn't support CDC guidelines.
Mrs. Ziegler?
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm, because again, and Mr. Robinson put that very eloquently, particularly as we talk about, and Mrs. Brown also mentioned about those mask breaks. As our current policy, we have not amended it, and that language, it does not allow for that inside. So if Mrs. Brown, I'm happy to put a motion on the table to amend it to afford that discretion to be provided, in lieu of direction with the superintendent or direction with the administration. What we discussed today at the workshop was a policy has to be followed. And as it is right now, and Mr. Hardy, I believe that's correct, as it's right now, nothing has been changed since our workshop. We haven't added any additional language to allow for that discretionary mask break inside.
This is the same policy that was discussed at the workshop, and which is in fact the current emergency policy.
So, well, if I may, I'm going to make a motion to see if we can add the language such that would allow that discretion for mask breaks.
Second.
Would you read? Where would you put it?
Bridget, may I had it written down earlier. It would be, where we have the extended circumstances and all that under Part 2, we would add mini breaks. Teachers may allow students to have mini breaks of 5 minutes or less if they are sitting quietly at their desks behind the desk shield. Is that where you're going at?
I could support that.
Socially distant.
I could support that.
That was what, that
So
was
ma-
what the Department of Health.
Would you like to make an amendment to the motion, since I'm happy to support that I didn't have that language, but I do believe it needs to be, whether that's procedure or policy, I just wanted to make sure the policy did afford for that allowance and accommodation, because right now, the way it's written, it does not.
I second that friendly amendment.
Okay, let's get the language then. Teachers may allow students to have mini breaks of 5 minutes or less.
While socially distant.
When sitting at their desks. Is he writing it down too? Sitting at their desks behind the desk shields and are appropriately distanced with appropriate distance between students.
Socially distant. Appropriately distant, I don't know, whatever. I thought that was going to be taken.
Mrs. Goodwin?
I thought that was going to be taken care of in procedures, but we're not doing the procedure now. We're doing an amendment to this policy, correct?
Madam Chair, just because the current policy would not allow for any of those accommodations, whether you want to have the explicit language as we just wrote it out.
So what I have now is adding another exception under paragraph 2 that'll be entitled mini breaks, and the language will state, teachers may allow students to have mini breaks of 5 minutes or less when students are sitting at their desks behind desk shields when they
It's supposed to be quietly at their desks.
We'll let the teachers manage that one.
when students are sitting quietly at their desks behind desk shields when they are appropriately socially distanced.
Yep.
Is that where you were going? You made the motion. I want to make sure.
No,
that it's
absolutely. I mean, I would like to see us start to lift the pedal.
So the maker of the motion to amend is Mrs. Ziegler, and you agree with that language for your, that's how you want it amended?
That's correct. I agree.
All right, and the second person says yes to that?
Yes, sir.
All right,
Yes, sir.
so currently on the table is a motion, there is a motion to adopt the policy, but before that, we have a motion to amend the policy to add the additional exception of mini breaks as I just read to you.
Yep.
And that's been moved and seconded, so that will be the first thing up for vote at this point.
Okay. Voice roll call.
Dr. Asplund, do you have any comments before we vote on this?
I believe that, as I said before, in talking with principals and teachers, I think that they will be able to do this appropriately. So having it in the policy would not be a problem, because I think they already do some of this. My one question would be, we didn't put a number or a limit on how many times a day or when that should occur. Is that important?
No.
Again, I want to make sure, since we were all talking about providing breaks, the way it was written, that would not be allowed for. So as far as all the explicit, those to me would be much more procedural.
Okay.
I just want to,
If you put time limits on or something, when you get into middle schools or where they're changing classes, it's different, so.
So how and when it's done is really left up to the school.
I've truly given this thought.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so all those in favor of the amended motion?
Aye.
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 All right, now, Madam Chair, you've
And the chair
you've
votes.
approved the amendment.
Yes.
So now you have
that.
before you adopting the policy as amended.
Right. May
Or
I have a
actually,
motion?
you're not adopting the policy, you're approving it for advertising.
May I have a motion on approving the?
You have a motion.
You already have it. The motion is there.
I have that one. Okay.
You have that one.
We'll just
All right.
vote.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And the chair votes aye. So it passes 5-0. Now, can we go back up to the approval of the audit committee nominees?
I move for approval of the audit committee nominations as recommended.
Need a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Madam Chair, I would just like to point out that listed in the motion includes Dr. Asplin and Ms. Corcoran as members of the committee, and technically they are not members of the committee, they are staff ex officio, just so that's clear. So the people you would actually be appointing are the chair's designee, Ms. Goodwin, Michael Pender, John Craner, Sue Meminger, Nick Guy, Chris Stobaugh, and Eric Robinson.
Well, then I'd like to make an amendment to the motion to scratch out that name of Brendan Asplin and Mitzi Corcoran. We can do it all on our machines, right?
I don't have them on here.
I think you're good to go. You're not actually approving them you're not approving Dr. Asplin or Ms. Corcoran to actually be members of the committee.
Well, I scribbled them out already anyway.
So we have a motion and a second?
I think.
A motion and a second, yep.
Yeah. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Item number 12.
Yes, Madam Chair, item number 12, the capital improvement plan was pulled into new business for discussion.
Okay. May I have a motion on item 12?
No, it's just for discussion.
No, it was to vote.
It was discussion and vote. It was pulled out of consent agenda.
I'm sorry. Okay. You should just tell me for discussion and then, okay.
It was pulled out for a vote?
No.
Yeah.
It was.
Yes. Put to new business for a vote. Item number 12.
It was in consent, and it was pulled for new business for vote.
That's not how it shows on our agenda.
I know. That's okay. So, may I have a motion on item 12, please? If you pull it to new business, you need a motion.
I move that we pull item 12 from the consent agenda to new business. That's happened.
That has already happened when you amended the consent agenda. So now someone just needs to make the motion.
I move the approval of the capital improvement plan as presented.
Second.
Okay. Now, on the discussion? Mrs. Ziegler?
I appreciate that, and I apologize for that. I thought, since we discussed it today, I overlooked that it was on our meeting today, not next board meeting. But I will not be supporting this for the same reasons I had not for the budget. I appreciate all of the work they've done. I think it is very thorough, and it's a very complex process, but I still have reservations about some of the expenditures given the unknown and needs to respond to the COVID-19. So I will not be supporting this.
Mr. Robinson?
Yeah, I'm concerned about COVID and how we're incorporating COVID into our budgeting process, especially because this is a 5-year plan, so this truly does have a domino effect of changing things, and so not taking into account all the unknowns, and it's a budget. A budget is an estimate. A budget is not exact. So if you have a reasonable expectation, that's when you need to put it into a budget. And we all have a reasonable expectation that there's going to be additional expenses related to COVID, which would lower the rolling forecast of the capital project balance, which would in turn affect future years. And so by not taking the reality of the situation into account, which is why we're all here wearing masks and why we just did the mask policy, but then to ignore it when you're actually doing your budgeting process, it does a disservice to the entire process. If it's not, if you don't put in the budget, you don't make it a priority. So I think that we need to be cognizant of what's going on and make certain allowances. We're already making the allowances. We need to memorialize that in the budgeting documents.
This is very unusual, the way this was presented to us, because normally we get the CIP plan first, and then we get the budget. We've already approved the budget, and now we're approving the CIP plan, which fits into the budget, which was already approved. So, Mrs. Goodwin?
Well, I will be voting for this plan. You know, although it's a 5-year plan, for planning purposes, we're only concerned with the first year. And I realize that there is some heartburn for others about certain projects that we might be implementing and constructing. But I think for the most part, I think we may have to modify other years going forward. But I feel pretty comfortable with what we're doing this year, and I think that you know, we've made strides in our construction service projects for many years. We have been thoughtful in our maintenance, roofing, other things that mean a lot, our chiller plants, our air conditioning systems. I would say, in looking at other school districts all over the state, we probably by far take care of our assets in a better way. And I think that as long as we don't, you know, back off from that and get ourselves into a bind, as I have seen Duval County and some other Hillsborough do, I think we're in a good position. And so I'll be promoting and supporting.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, please say nay.
Nay.
And the chair votes aye, and the motion passes 3-2. You want to speak, Mrs. Brown? Yes. Mrs. Brown?
I think our public comments today show. I'm sorry. I think our public comments and our recent mail has showed that, you know, we're in a highly charged political environment right now. Things from the mask policy to trying to give professional development to our teachers to help them understand how they can help all of our children to succeed, because we do have studies that are showing that Black and brown students are less likely to be called on if they've got their hands raised. They're more likely to be punished than their white peers, and the punishment that they get is often stronger than what it was for their white peers. And we want to make sure that all of our children succeed. And I hope we can get to some training for our staff that may not be as highly charged as the one that they had originally seen. You know, now we've got something that we're going to be working with our behavior specialist on. And then, you know, because we have an app out there that students can access that might have something in there that, now we know it actually does have something in there that some people object to. But we had students here today. We had students that told us that racism is alive and well in our schools, and that they say that we need to be looking at that. And I think we should listen to our students. I know that there's instances in our schools. I look at those numbers that we get when we get the reports of how many students have been expelled, how many students have been suspended. But we also know about the kids that are bullied and things like that. I hope that after this election, things will calm down and we can take a look at this in a more calm manner. And part of me says I'd like to say I'm sorry to these people who I offended by answering the emails. But I do. I try to answer as honestly as I possibly can and tell you how I feel. And sometimes we disagree. And I think on this mask issue, and I think even on our training, I disagree with some people. I don't think it's because I'm a far left-wing person. I think I'm rather middle of the road on a lot of things. But I do care about our students, and I do care about our teachers. And we heard from students today, and I've heard from many teachers who said that was very good training. I don't think we should throw it out. There are teachers that say we need to be looking at things like this. And I know that that is one area that we need to look at those underperforming students and to make sure that we lift up all students. And I hope when we put it to the side, we're not just shoving it in a corner someplace. I do hope that we can look at it after tempers calm down and the election is over and we can start a new year, hopefully without masks and without all the rancor that we saw today.
Mrs. Ziegler?
Thank you. So a couple things. First, I want to thank the board for working together on that amended mask policy. I think that's a win for us. I do want to address a lot of the comments that were said today, and particularly about with the brain pop. I know I used it with my daughter, and I think there was great items that were accessible in there. But interestingly enough, there are items with third-party organizations that we contract with that may not align effectively to what we're trying to do. I don't diminish that there are real issues, and that we, as an educational institution, don't have to hide away from it. You can acknowledge things, but there's an effective way to do that. And so I applaud the superintendent for taking a moment to review that. I don't want anyone to think that that is something that we're trying to shield people from or not address. I just think that there's an appropriate and effective way to do so, and without causing further division or encompassing further political divisions. And so I look forward to that continued conversation. I hope that the students who showed up, any staff, and the community knows that this is not something where it's trying to be swept under the rug. It's just doing it in a way that is appropriate for a public education institution to do so. The final thing I wanted to say was, and this is just more of a follow-up item, there was a gentleman who spoke about the national anthem, and I'm not quite sure. I have heard a couple different things, so I'm not sure what the history is there or what our current policy or protocol is. Is that something you could come back with a report to us so we are familiar? Because it may be different circumstances at different schools, but just not to put you on the spot, so if that's something we could bring forward, I do think that's a relevant topic that I'd like to see if the board would be interested as well. Board members.
Okay.
Ms. Ziegler, I will say that we will come back. We do not have a current district-wide policy on that. Our schools have their own procedures that have been in place for a long, long time, but I will look into it and talk to you about it.
Thank you very much.
I don't know where it stops, where we allow the principals to have autonomy for their schools and where we issue policy. I mean, we should not, because one school is doing something wrong, we should not penalize all the schools. So I think we need to be really careful with what we do with this and how we address policy so that we don't begin to micromanage the schools, because that's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is up here, and it's up to the superintendent and the principals and staff to work in the schools, not us. So I need us to be really clear that we don't infringe upon Dr. Brennan's responsibility. Mr. Robinson.
I don't think it's Mr. Brennan's responsibility, nor would I think that he'd want to take the responsibility of telling students you're not allowed to take the field during the national anthem. I would hope that he has so many other things to do in his job that is not something, and that's kind of an overarching thing amongst all the schools. That's not a micromanage on a particular school, and it's a learning lesson. If you're telling the kids you cannot go out on the field during, I'm not saying that this is the case. I'm hoping it's not a case, it's a misunderstanding. But if you're saying you cannot go out on the field to stand for the national anthem when you want to, that's a teachable moment, and I think it's a bad lesson. But that's not the reason why I press my button ahead of time. I pressed my button ahead of time because in the month of October, we're going to be, a list is going to be come out from Ms. Sarah Dan, and I implore everybody to sign up for the calendar before it gets overflowed or your spots get taken. It's like Bruce Springsteen U2 concert. National School Lunch Week is the month of October. And so not only is everybody on the board, but people from the community can come out and work with the cafeteria workers, see the safety and protocols that they do and what they have to put up with. So when you get your call from Sarah or the email, please fill in your times as soon as possible, or else I'll probably take your time up. So I strongly suggest, and I put a challenge out to Mr. Edwards and Miss Rose to see which one of you can sign up for the most lunch times at the variety of schools. So that's my challenge to the new board members-elect. So again, National School Lunch Week, it's going to be from October 12th to the 16th, and please sign up early and often. So thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Goodwin?
Well, I would just say that, this has been an enlightening day today. Heard from some interesting people. And I think that we need to reach out to all students. I believe we need to reach out to all races, all religions, all sexual and gender, and all of the different issues that we have, I think, are things that we need to work on. And I think there is an issue with race, there is an issue with gender bias, LGBTQ. We have made strides in this district over the course of the last few years. Their History Month is coming up in October. I serve on a state committee and do a lot of work in that arena. And many of those students tell me their safest place is at school. The place they feel the best is at school. We shouldn't marginalize any student. We should reach out to each and every student and where we find them and where they are. And I hope we'll continue to do that. I think we have done that in the past. As far as the high school issue with the national anthem, we're attempting to make that into a political issue, and of our schools that play football, 4 of the 5 don't come out until the national anthem is completed because of logistics of a large band and getting people off the field. It's become, they've done it 20, 25 years, some of the schools. I believe that, they'll do whatever we tell them to do, but it won't be easy. And I believe it should be left up to the principal and the respective team. We don't need to get into this. We don't need to get in the weeds on that. And, 9/11 means a great deal to me because I lost people on the 2 planes that hit the World Trade Center. I was with George Bush at the school when it happened. So I always have a moment where I go to church and do my thing on 9/11. So I understand that we should never forget. But I do believe that we are doing a great job in these athletic programs and letting them handle this.
Okay. I was also with George Bush at Emma E. Booker the day of 9/11. So, it was a terrible day. My cousin lost her life at the World Trade Center. So I understand. And maybe for 9/11 we should have done. It's really hard to say what you can do right now because of COVID. But maybe we should have gone out onto the field for 9/11. But I also like the principals having the autonomy to decide what it is that they want to do with their schools. Because right now, principals feel like they don't have that autonomy, and they need it because they are the leaders of their school. And we can't, from here, sit down and tell that principal what's best for his school or her school. They know. We don't. I also am very well aware of the disparity between our race culture. I sit on the State Board for Juvenile Justice. I'm a State Advisory Council member. So I've spent many years involved in juvenile justice, and the ratio hasn't changed. It's still, when you look at them, that they're brown and black people, mainly in our detention centers and in our jails. So there is a race disparity, whether we want to admit it or not, there is. So I think that we have to do something. We have to teach our kids. I have a photograph which I'm bringing in to give to Kathy Tompkins, and it says, "Children are not born hating." And it shows all the different races, the little babies all around it. Because that's true, they're not. It's a learned behavior. So we need to make sure that we are teaching behavior to our students based on all people as being equal. So I do hope, Dr. Asplin, that you do continue with that culture awareness piece. And I would like to thank staff, teachers and staff, for the last couple of weeks. I do read all of the emails. Over the last 2 days, I would say I answered at least 100 emails. At 11 o'clock last night, 11:30, I was answering emails. So for people that say we don't answer their emails, I guess they're going into a black box, because I answer them. And as the chair, it's my responsibility to answer them, so I do. I don't always do a long thing. I might say I agree and sign my name, because at 100, I want to get through as many as I can do. So just letting people know you agree or you don't agree and why, I think, is sufficient. But and this morning at 7:30 this morning, I was answering emails. So I'm sorry if I didn't get to everyone's email. It's not for lack of trying. And I would like to, I guess that's the end of our meeting, unless anybody has anything else they'd like to say. Anything else we'd like to beat up?
Announce the next meeting.
I will. Next scheduled board meeting is Tuesday, October the 6th at 6:30 p.m. We are adjourned. Did I call him Dr. Brennan again? Did I call him Dr.